This episode of Shootin The Shiznit is brought to you by WeHaveMerch.com. WeHaveMerch.com. Standard size shirts at only $12.99. Shirts include I'm a Shiznitter, my old buddy, Cool Kids Countdown logo, Shootin The Shiznit logo, Happy Shiznit Day, and many more. Order your shirt today at WeHaveMerch.com.
Glowing Hearts knows that you have a right to choose any in-home provider you wish. At Glowing Hearts, committed to caring isn't just a tagline, it's a promise to their clients, employees, and communities that they have the honor to service in Pemmican, Dunklin, New Madrid, Butler, Scott, Mississippi, Stoddard, Wayne, Bollinger, and Cape counties. For more information, contact Glowing Hearts at 844-390-3735 in Marston or 573-803-2716 in Cape Girardeau. Glowing Hearts, committed to caring.
Have you listened to episode 22? It's with David Bixenspan. Here's a clip. Download. All the archives are at stspod.club.
No, you know what it is? Sometimes with the guests, we try to find like a good topic week for them. Because I think with you, I think it was some kind of Memphis thing. I may be wrong.
Right.
And then, so we've just been trying to find the right week.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah, that's got to, I mean, you relive some of the older stuff there. That's, and even the stuff that was, the USWA stuff, and after Hart left and it just started going downhill, I have all kinds of opinions about all that, so that would be fun to do. But I did bring you on here just to talk about podcasts and 605. We just make sure that I knew you was part of that, and that's it's really growing. Like I said, Tom is my favorite part on the show, and me and you and Brian had a good time when I was on the show before. Mm-hmm. But I got you on here because we're gonna talk about the business of the business and what's going on right now, and in your opinion, what you think is going on and what it really means. I'm a business major. Graduated from college with a degree in business, so it's kind of, I'm a mark for the business part of the business. When I did a website that was just in the Memphis area, I would put the gates up because I would count the people times, how much the ticket was, and that made the promotion.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let's start the party.
In May of 2006, I started a website, WrestlingRiotOnline.com, where I covered the Memphis area wrestling scene. I decided to become the Dave Meltzer of the area and kayfabe nothing. I gave stars to matches, talked psychology, and gave gates of the shows. This had never been done, and it was a favorite side of many people, and some people just hated me. In May of 2011, after 5 years of posting, I shut the site down. I opened it again when we started the podcast back up and renamed it. But all the old information, guys, is still there. This month, to celebrate the site, we will be posting the Memphis in May series, with guests being some of the wrestlers of the Memphis series. Guys that were popular during the Wrestling Riot years. Sit back and relax and listen to our guests and enjoy Memphis in May. Guys, we're going to welcome to STS Studios he's been sitting over there in the green room. Welcome, Eric Wayne.
Hey, Brian, how you doing, man?
Oh, we're doing good. Guys, just me and Eric have been knowing each other for a long time. I was friends with his dad for years and years. And actually, the funny thing is, I don't think I ever saw you as his kid or whatever unless I saw you at like a barbecue. I think I saw you one time at a barbecue. But we talked about this right before we went on, that your story is going to be a lot different than the other guys we've been bringing on here. And what I've been doing is just bringing guys that were popular on the Wrestling Right website. That was one of the top, we had top 50 and 50 days kind of thing. And you were one of the top.
Well, shit, I guess you ran out of people if I'm your guest now, huh?
Well, yeah, right. Yeah, we've been trying to do this. There's something else here. Let me tell y'all. We've been trying to do this for fucking a month, I think. Finally got to do it. So let's start with you now. Let everyone know. Buddy Wayne is your granddad, so you're third generation wrestler in the Memphis area. Tell us about what your first thoughts or what you first remember about professional wrestling.
Oh man, probably the story that I always tell is I always have to go out and promote with Buddy when I was like in the summertime in between like elementary school. I'm talking like probably 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and I was just old enough that however old you're supposed to be when you can be left alone, that's how old I was. Because his we'd go to like somewhere like Mark Tree or Jonesboro or Forest City or something I remember going to, and to put out posters. And that's how he spent his that's how he made his money. So we'd pile in his little brown van that had a chair that just sat there. It wasn't like bolted in because safety doesn't really matter. So we would go over with 1,000 posters or whatever we had, and we'd split them up. And his theory for not going with me is when you go to a business to ask to put in a poster or something, they're going to tell an old ugly man like him no, but a little kid or a woman they're not going to say no to as quickly. So it's easier for me to get the posters out than it is him. I'm not sure how much of that I really believed. I think that he probably just went to a buffet or something and let me go do whatever. So he would tell me like, hey, I'm going to drop you off here, go down this side, come back up here, and there's a Walmart where you make a left at this light or whatever, we're going to meet at that Walmart in an hour or something. Put out all 100 posters that you've got, and then we'll go eat lunch. So I was like, okay. So I go do everything, and I remember showing up to the Walmart, and I had like maybe 5 or 6 posters left. And it's just because I think I ran out of places to go. Not that anyone really said no that much, but I think it was more that I just ran out of places. So I was like, well, why do you have those posters left over? I was like, I didn't have anywhere to put them or whatever. He goes, we got to get them all out. We're not going to draw if we can't get all this out. People aren't going to know about it. You're not helping holding them. He goes, we'll have to get them out before we can eat. I was like, what he goes, go give that lady one. Go give that other guy one with his kids. Go give them some posters. I had to walk through Walmart and hand posters to people so that we could go eat. And otherwise I wasn't going to get to eat. And so like, that's one of the first things I remember is like, you promote until you run out of things or it's not going to draw. And then of course, when Showtime came, I still had to help set up chairs and work concessions, or I was supposed to hand out, what are they called? They don't do them anymore. Programs, like the little paper. Yeah. So that was his big draw because he can make those at home on his printer, and those cost him like legit. They probably cost him like 4 or 5 cents, if you count ink and paper. And he would sell them for $2 or $3 and have 200 or 300 of them or more. And so I had to stand at the door like the ticket sellers would be in front of me. I'd be at the next little entrance in the gymnasium. And I try to sell posters. Well, I'm like 8. I don't have like the best coordination and all this in anyway. So I go to like hand out a program to somebody, and I dropped all of them. I think that's the first thing I remember is dropping all the posters or programs, having to pick them all up. But I did sell like 10 more because people felt bad for me and bought programs off of them, so I had to pick up as many of them. But it was always just working at whatever town we were at, concessions or not selling programs anymore after that, and setting up the ring and tearing it down when I was like, not even old enough to ride a bike.
Right. I mean,
which actually, I still can't ride a bike. I'm 31, about to be 32, and I never learned to ride one, by the way.
There we go. I remember your granddad, as a wrestler, but when he started promoting, he was always there. Jonesboro was one of his towns, and the memory I have of him is he was always doing something. I mean, he was either doing the popcorn and, I had Randy Hales doing something also, but
right.
But they were doing something with chairs, or he was walking around making sure the ring was put together. He would check the ring after it was put together. And I would arrive early sometimes, and I was friends with someone at the gimmicks table, so I was able just to bullshit and sit around with her, and then watch him do the things he did. I got a Buddy Wayne story I've got to tell, and that's what this is about. This is about Shootin The Shiznit.
Everyone's got a Buddy Wayne story.
Well, this is unique. This is, believe it or not, this might be something I've never told you. So, my mom, when we started going to wrestling, I was 12 years old, and my mom was a homecoming queen when she was in high school, so not a bad-looking lady.
Oh, wow.
So Buddy was always super nice to my mother.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He always came over, thanked her for coming, winked at her, and said, "Can I get you anything?" Or he was always hitting on my mom, which I thought was so funny.
Oh, man. Yep, that's definitely Buddy, 100%.
But that was part of promoting, also being able to,
that was part of Buddy. Hitting on women was part of Buddy. My soon-to-be ex-wife. The first time he met her was at his 80th birthday party, and we walk in to like Greg and Vicky's house, and house full of family, and Buddy's sitting at the table where it's supposed to be where they're grilling and doing stuff. So all like the bags of chips and random stuff's there. I think he already had like a little bowl of like Rotel dip or something, was just snacking, because when we had family functions, he was the first to start eating and the last to stop.
Well, sure.
So it explains why when he had cancer, he was able to get full doses of chemotherapy and go from like 310 down to like 190, and still promote shows, by the way. I still remember him doing shows. Go down to 190, lose his teeth, get dentures, and go back up to like 270 because he just food. If it wasn't women, it was food. And his excuse after losing his teeth was he had to drink so much water because he didn't have any saliva glands that it took him longer to eat. Like, buddy, it doesn't take 7 hours. It does not take 7 hours to eat. Well, anyway, we're at his birthday party. My girlfriend at the time, we walk in, and much like your mom, she's not a bad-looking girl at all.
No, not at
and
all.
we meet, and hey, hi, how are you? 5 minutes later, she's right beside me because doesn't know anybody but me. And this was one of his favorite lines. Hey, what'd you say her name is? It's Mallory, buddy. And she starts kind of grinning, but goes, "Do you have any naked pictures of Mallory?" I knew exactly where he was going. I said, "No, buddy, I don't." He goes, "Oh, do you want to see some?"
Yeah,
buddy, right in front of her. He goes, I got some other ones if you want to buy them, though. But I got some if you want to see them. I was like, God, classic line. Like when he passed away, she went to the funeral with me, and that was one of her little things she got to tell people. It's like, the first time I met him, he asked Eric if he had any naked pictures of him. Like, yeah, but that's what Buddy says to everybody. You got any naked pictures? You want to buy some? Like I've used that line before I was with her. Like, it's just a classic Buddy line.
Yeah. I could, and I never. When it came to promoting shows or being on any shows, the only time I ever was around your grandpa was when he was at your dad's shows there at NEW. So let's talk about what's weird. Like we said, your upbringing is that you're in the wrestling business, that you're born into it. What the hell? That's pretty much the way it's going to be. It's not what it, and you from firsthand. I mean, you start. There's no kayfabe. I mean, they're not kayfabe an 8-year-old, are they?
I wasn't told anything going into it. Like, I just knew these were people that my dad worked with. Like, I didn't know who Jerry Lawler was, or Bill Dundee, or like Billy Travis. Billy Travis taught me what lukewarm water was, because I had no clue what that meant. He handed me a spray bottle one night and said to fill it up with water. I said, okay. He goes, but not hot, or they get like lukewarm. I was like, what does that mean? He's like, like not hot, but not cold. I was like, oh, okay. I'd never heard that before, because again, I was like, I think everything happened to me before I was 9, because when I was 9, I lived in Puerto Rico with my dad for like 2 months during the summer. And I remember stuff happening all around like 7 to 11 probably. But, yeah, I was never told anything. Like, I would go to Channel 5, and I would be, like, in the back wherever they dressed or whatever. I remember, like, that was, like, the break room. And you go down the hallway. Lawler he'd have his dressing room, like, to the left or something. And you go, like, around the corner, and then I think the curtain was, like, to the right. I was just told, don't go through that curtain, because that curtain led to the studio. Well, right. where that L was in the hallway, that was like the Channel 5, the newsroom where they do like the live news from and everything. And one of the first things I remember, like when people ask me, like I was kayfabed about things, is I was sitting there with Jeff Jarrett, and I remember who else. We're watching on like one of the cameras they shoot with, like on the monitor that's on that big like TV camera, and it was Papa Shango. It was before whatever gimmick he had here before. I might have been Papa Shango then, but it was that gimmick with the smoking skull and cast a spell and all that kind of shit.
Soul Taker. And he was Soul Taker. Yeah, it was Soul Taker down here.
Don't mention that name. Okay. I didn't realize it was that. I didn't realize it was that name.
Hey, Eric, we're not going to talk about Mississippi wrestling. You got way too much to talk about except for Mississippi wrestling. So there we go.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with Soul Taker. It's one of those things. It's a love-hate relationship. I think I had that with a lot of people by accident. But anyway, it was Papa Shango when he was in WWF, was here in Memphis, and he was beating somebody up. I might have been my dad or somebody else. I remember watching with Jeff Jarrett. And Jeff's the one that taught me about like timing in the business, like not to do things too early or too late. And I'm watching, and he's got the headphones on or whatever, and I see whoever getting beat up. I remember like hitting Jeff on the leg. I'm like, Jeff, someone needs to go out there. Someone's got to go. And he gives me the finger. He's like, no, wait, hold on. And, like he points at the monitor. He goes, keep watching. And I forget what happened. I guess like the people weren't loud enough yet. Like they had just started getting the heat on whoever it was. And so, like, I keep watching, and he's pointing at the monitor, telling me to keep watching. And whoever was standing there, like, to give the signal is like on the other side of me. And he's pointing at the monitor, and he points at whoever it is. He's like, go, tells him to go. He pulls his headphones down, and I can't remember what he told me now, but I remember it being about timing and waiting until the right moment to do something. And I'll never forget that little moment of Jeff, like, no, like he must have like just hit whoever it was, and like was setting him up to hit him with something big,
Right.
And, but yeah, no, they didn't tell me anything. He was just like, no, keep watching. Okay. Now we send somebody, because that was like the big moment of like, oh, they're really going to get him now. And then they send the cavalry in. But yeah, I was never told anything. They did some kind of ether in the rag thing with like Jeff Gaylord or somebody, and carried him on a stretcher to the back in like Blytheville. And he laid there for like 2 or 3 minutes, just because whenever they set him down, you could see through the concession stand back to where he was. And he laid there for a minute and then got up. And the way, like, you could see going up the stairs, I had to walk with him to help him up the stairs. We get to the top of the stairs, and he just walked off. I was like, how did you couldn't make it up the stairs, and now you're walking just fine. Like, I didn't know anything. Yeah. I just learned through being around everything, that, everyone doesn't really hate each other too much. And imagine being in Puerto Rico, not knowing that, like, they really believe it's 1975 in Puerto Rico. And I was down there like 95. Like, I was getting hit in the head with rocks and told not to leave the locker room because I'd be killed, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I was never told anything.
That's crazy. Let's take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with Eric Wade.
Glowing Hearts knows that you have a right to choose any in-home provider you wish. At Glowing Hearts, committed to caring isn't just a tagline, it's a promise to their clients, employees, and communities that they have the honor to service in Pemiscot, Dunklin, New Madrid, Butler, Scott, Mississippi, Stoddard, Wayne, Bollinger, and Cape counties. For more information, contact Glowing Hearts at 844-390-3735 in Marston or 573-803-2716 in Cape Girardeau. Glowing Hearts, committed to caring.
That's right, guys. It's NBA playoff season. I want you to go to tinyurl.com/STS Fanatics. That's FANATICS. Yes, guys, go there. Get all your NBA gear. That's right, NBA playoff gear. They also sell officially licensed merchandise for NCAA, NFL, Major League Baseball, NHL. Hey, it's the NHL playoffs also. Go to Fanatics, buy something at that link, and you help us here at Shootin The Shiznit. Now, back to the show. All right, we're back with Eric. Eric, I've been doing this with everybody, so we're going to talk about what was going on Wrestling Right here. And when we did that top 50, here's all the awards that you were nominated for, what you won, the whole 9 yards. So just sit back and listen, because you got a lot here. Rookie 2007, you was nominated. Arena Report Match 2008, Horizon 2008. Columnist, which you were doing columns in 2009, arena match again in 2019, columnist again, arena match again in 2010, and tag team in 2010. Those were the nominations. The wins was Arena Report Match 2008, Horizon Star 2008, Arena Report Match 2009, and Arena Report Match 2010. In the RRO Top 10, which we did at the very end of the yearbook, 2008, you were ranked number 8, 2009, number 9. And tag team, you and Kevin, as Premier Brutality, was the number 3 team in 2010. And I'm going to read you what I wrote here on this. It's kind of like a baseball card little thing that we did. Okay. Here's a guy that, from his first match to right now, has been a major influence in this business. He has the potential to be the best in this area for years to come. With his drive and determination, he is one of my favorite guys to watch work. And I haven't seen you work in I don't know how long, so if you haven't improved, you're still a damn good worker. So,
well, thank you. I like to think I've improved a little bit, maybe, I hope. Yeah, that was, those columns, I've talked to people about that since then. That was the best and worst idea that we ever agreed on. I don't know if I've ever told you that or not, because no. I had such a chip on my shoulder back then, because I'd been around for I count Puerto Rico as like the first time I really started paying attention and being more involved in wrestling. Excuse me, because before that, before I turned 10 years old, I was just real behind the scenes, setting stuff up or doing whatever. I don't know if I was older than 9 or not. My first little angle was with Lawler in some show and against Spellbinder. And my job was to go get everything from the ring and then pass any messages from dressing rooms, because it was very common that the dressing rooms were separate back then. And they did some little angle where I would take Lawler's crown, but I wouldn't take Spellbinder's. So he chases me. Lawler cuts him off. Bunch of stuff happens during the heat. I come back out to cheer Jerry on. Spellbinder cuts him back down and starts yelling at me. I start walking towards the ring. And again, I was a little kid, so it could have been 3 people. It felt like half the building just started following me to the ring and making sure I was going to be safe from Spellbinder. And of course, Lawler come back, win, whatever. But no, those columns, I felt like I'd been around forever, because I remember being so little and watching guys that did this 5-6 days a week and twice on Sundays to what it ended up being, which, looking back, the area was a lot better than I thought it was in the early 2000s and stuff, in 2007 and 8 when I broke in wrestling. But to compare to what I thought it was supposed to be I was like, man, all these guys are terrible. They're all out of shape. They don't have this. They don't have that. And Derek King was one of the only ones that told me, you have to stop writing what you're writing, because he's like, those guys aren't going to change. And you're having the conversations that everyone else has in the car leaving the show, but you're putting that shit online. So well, they need to get better. Screw them. They need to learn they're making the business terrible, blah, blah, blah. And as much as like people, like a lot of people would tell me face to face, we agree. But then even more would go online or to like the ones that I was talking about, like, well, he's talking bad about us. But they didn't understand that like maybe you should kind of have something besides just your friends coming to watch you, because that's why I felt like the business was so bad. And now looking back, like it doesn't really matter. Like if you want to have fun and do this once a week because you enjoy it, then go do that. But if you're trying to be serious about it, don't do what I did and call people out, because they're not going to change. I learned that when I saw some of the same people from 10 years ago in the last year, and they look, act, work the exact same. I'm like, oh, well, those columns, you know, acting that way helped Brian get hits to his website, but it didn't really help me because
I mean, it's the same thing. I watched, someone sent me some clips from, and I said I wasn't going to talk bad about Mississippi wrestling, but it's
Mississippi.
It's the truth. Okay. It is the truth. I watched clips, you know, the website's been gone 6 years. I did a famous, because everyone hated me in Mississippi after that, where I talked about how god awful it was. You know, they may have 5 people that know how to work. And I'm saying, you know, they don't even know. We're talking basic psychology, shine, heat, come back.
Yeah.
They don't know any of that. And so and it hasn't changed. I've seen some clips of some matches and just god awful stuff. And your dad used to say something. I remember ASWF was bad, but not as bad as Mississippi. And they were drawing, 350 or something like that. And we always talked about what if they did know how to wrestle? What would they draw?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And like I've been helping out a company locally the past couple of months, and just kind of really started just going to show support because it's not far from home, and I've been helping their guys. And a lot of times that happens, like guys don't know anything, not because, they were probably trained poorly or didn't have training, but because they are so young and so green, they don't have anybody to tell them, like, you should kick out really strong so that people buy into it more. You should hit people harder so that they buy into it more. Like some of the basics like that, like footwork and timing and placement on stuff, because they weren't really trained the right way. They were trained by somebody that wasn't trained right, that was trained by somebody that wasn't trained right, that was trained by somebody that wasn't really trained and just kind of started doing it. And so it just got more and more watered down to where like you have to get outside of wherever you're at, whether it's Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, anywhere, Kentucky, whatever your little local scene is, you have to travel outside of that, because some of those guys are going to be good, but there's going to be a lot more that are a lot better. And even if they're not necessarily better than locally, you can learn something from them that you couldn't learn, because everybody thinks differently, whether it's in Miami or West Virginia or Chicago, or hell, I wrestle in North Dakota, and some of those guys wrestle all over the country. It's like you have to learn from different people. And if you're only wrestling with your friends and family, then we can't expect them to get better or to be what we consider, passable wrestling, because they're not doing it to have a career, to be good at it. They're doing it just because they want to tell their friends that they're wrestling Saturday night down here at this little auto body shop that's whatever. They're wrestling at some fire department or something, and they just want their friends to come see them wrestle. If they want to do that, that's fine. I'm just not going to associate that with guys that really want to be good at it. Like Walker Hayes, for example, since we're talking about Mississippi wrestlers, he's one of those guys that has only been wrestling a couple of years, but only with people that can kind of give him some guidance, but can't get him to like his full potential. He's got a ton of potential, and he's never going to reach that if he just stays local. No one's ever going to reach their full potential if they stay local. But anyways, it could be a lot better, but I guess it could be a lot worse too.
Right. There's a story that just popped in my mind about you, and we got to tell this story. And when it happened, I know when it happened, it wasn't funny. But now I think
I know. I think I know what you're going to say. Go ahead.
So first, I'm gonna let you set it up. What happened was you had an accident. Your dad ran shows every week on Friday. NEW. And you kicked somebody. What was who? I can't even think of his name.
Okay, so I'll set it up for you because it actually happened. It actually happened twice, and then it went all the way to Randy Orton in WWE.
There we go. Tell this story. Tell it.
Yeah. So all right. So the initial, the beginning of this actually happens like probably 8 or 9 months earlier in NEW. It was one of like the first matches. It was me versus Scott Fury. And Scott's from Arkansas. He was in ASWF. He was one of the first guys that when Kevin and I started traveling in like 07, early 08, I'm sorry, 06, 07, he was like the very first guys that we ever met because Kevin wrestled as Kid Nichols. And the way we met, Scott was they like Luke Graham introduced us to the locker room or whatever because we came with my dad, who, by the way, immediately started burying everybody for whatever reason he could think of, because why not get heat on your new guys that have had 4 matches by burying the whole locker room they're going to have to work with? That's always smart. And I love my dad, by the way, but sometimes it was best just not to say anything. But that's beside the point. So anyway, Scott, they introduced Kevin. He worked as Kid Nichols. Scott misunderstood that and walks over and he goes, "Did he say your name is Kid Nipples?" I'm like, "No, it's Nichols, like the money." He's like, man, I thought he said Kid Nipples. I was like, "You can't work as Kid Nipples. There's kids out there." So that was our introduction to Scott. Fast forward to like August or September of 08. It's one of the first shows for NEW, and I booked to wrestle him. Ironically enough, my promo was that somebody's going to get hurt in our match because my whole thing back then was like being real vicious and like I'm tough and I'm, whatever. So I've been watching a lot of like Japan and Ring of Honor, and I want to do this like running big boot in the corner, like the thing MVP used to do. And so I shoot Scott into the corner, big running charge, big boot in the corner, pull my foot back. He drops down to his hands and knees, and I see blood dripping on the canvas. Like, damn it. Oh, no. Oh, man, he's hurt. So, I'm trying to be a heel. So I walk over and I kind of tap him in the face with my boot. And I hear people in the crowd like, "Oh, come on." So I'm trying to check on Scott. "Are you okay?" Because he's just like pouring blood out of his mouth. So I ask him, like, "Are you good?" He's like, "Yes, keep going." I'm like, "Okay." So we go a couple more minutes, finish the match, check on him. To make a longer story short, the boot actually went right past his face. I like barely even kicked him. But when I pulled my foot back while we're still in the corner, my boot caught his teeth and pulled out some of his teeth. He didn't have the best dental plan before then. And he told me after the fact, after a couple of beers and, some strong pain medication, that I saved him a lot of money because he'd been needing to get his teeth pulled, and he lost like 2 or 3 of them that night. So that was the initial thing, and it got put online, and, all the heat started coming then. Well, then the video of the match got posted, and everybody saw like, oh, he really didn't. It really was an accident. Like, you can slow it down and see where, like, my foot goes right past him and never really –
right.
It looked killer.
My deal with this, and it's always been, and even back then, but it is now, we recently had Sami Callihan make a mistake hitting Eddie Edwards. They've had a hell of an angle with it. But it's one of those things where shit happens. It's professional
wrestling. It's a touchy – So it was a complete accident. Shit just happened, whatever. And I already had the reputation before that because of how my dad trained us, because my dad always trained us think, shoot, then work. And he would rather us be too stiff than too light because there again, so many people were afraid of hitting each other that he wanted our stuff to lay it in. And Kevin and I wrestled and trained together so much that we didn't realize how stiff we were. I remember clotheslining Brickhouse Brown one time, and he landed, like, we went to the ground, and he goes, "Oh, bro, did I owe you fucking money?" Yeah. Like, "Oh, sorry. I was just taught to throw really hard," like, whatever. So that's how we were always taught. And this was still, less than 2 years in, roughly. we were still learning. So that was like, end of 08. May of 09, we're having the U.S. Junior Heavyweight title tournament, and it went on for like 6 weeks. Well, like getting close to the finals, it came down to me and Greg King. And early opening of the match, we do something, and he covers me. And it was, again, just one of those things. He covers me, and as I'm kicking out, I said, "Watch the enziguri." Why on God's green earth do you kick out of a pinfall and think that you're going to get up fast enough, spin around, and throw an enziguri to the guy that just covered you? I don't know where that came from, but whatever. 2.5 years in, I'm going to kick out and then throw an enziguri.
Right.
And so he kicks out, and whether he heard me or not, I still to this day don't know. But I went to throw it, and I got in such a rush that I just, as I went to spin, I remember looking to see where he was so I would kind of know how to, gauge where I needed to throw my enziguri. Well, the typical, they kick out, and Greg would always do this thing where he was oh, man, and, have his hands up or whatever. And so he's sitting on his knees, and he goes, oh, well, he leans back a couple of inches to, put over, oh, he kicked out. Kind of like how Bret Hart would, he'd come out and do his entrance, and he'd oh, to the people.
Right.
It was like that, but he's sitting on his knees going, oh, man. Well, I didn't realize he was going to lean back and put over that I kicked out. The enziguri, I've seen it back, and we showed the clip on TV. It was a horrible, horrible enziguri. I just rushed to try and hurry up and get there. Well, as he leaned back, the toe of my boot catches him right in the orbital socket, right there on the edge of his eye. And it broke his orbital bone in 3 places, or 2 places, I think. Broke the part of his nasal cavity and his nose. It fucked him up pretty bad. He rolled out of the ring screaming, and I knew right then, I was oh no, this is more than just a stiff kick. I talked to him in the parking lot after it happened, apologized 100 times, whatever, thought he was going to be okay. We found out after the fact of what had actually happened to him. He thinks for some reason I did it on purpose. He came back a few years later, and we worked out in the ring, hung out and everything, and I thought had squashed it. So that happened in May. In June, the 1st and 2nd of June, 2 weeks after this, Kevin and I had extra spots for WWE, in Birmingham, and I think here in town in Memphis. And Brooklyn Brawler knew, he knew me from my dad and everything. And Brooklyn, Steve is a really nice guy, almost too nice. And so he's, at checking up how we're doing, catering's going to be open in a minute, blah, blah, blah. And here's this, and trying to get us over with everybody. And so, I go to catering and I go to sit down and, just again, not being ready for a situation. I go to walk up with my plate. I go to walk up with my plate to an empty table. Jim Ross walks up to the same exact empty table as me. And I'm this is 09. So I'm almost, just turned 23. The, grizzled young vet, Eric Wayne, doesn't decide he's going to go somewhere else. I'll ask JR, I was oh, I'm sorry, sir. Do you mind if I sit here too? And JR is really nice and not stuck up at all. He goes, don't bother me. No one else is sitting here. So
right.
What the hell? Some extra that doesn't have a body, not a prospect at WWE, sitting right next to JR while he's going over Raw for that night, looking through everything they got to know for the show. I'm sitting there eating. So I think Lawler comes and sits across from JR. My dad sits next to him. They're bullshitting back and forth. Some of the Kevin sits down. One of the other extra guys sits there. So that was a full table, and I'm JR's right-hand man across from my dad and Jerry and Kevin are the 3 that I'm looking at the whole time. So, I think CM Punk was there. Jericho comes walking through. Randy Orton had come through. I think Edge is in there. I'll pick up those names later. But anyway, the catering room's getting full. And Brooklyn Brawler walks in. I'm just sitting there eating or picking at my food, trying to be quiet, whatever. He goes, oh, hey, Eric, hey, how's things going? Oh, they're good. He's standing up talking to me. And he's, oh, that's good, man. That's good. Blah, blah, blah. You get in the ring a little bit. Da, da, da. Or maybe we already been in the ring, whatever it was. He goes, oh, hey, there's Randy Orton. He's a third-generation wrestler like you. I'm going to go get him so you can beat him. Oh, great. Let me meet world champion Randy Orton right now that doesn't care who the hell I am. So Brooklyn Brawler's idea to get me over to him is to tell him about what just happened with Greg a few weeks earlier. Because I think it had been picked up on a couple of the websites, too, like your website that I think he watches, which anybody listening, by the way, don't ever think that they don't read different little local websites, because I know they're reading your website all the time. They always go check different independent websites to see like who they want to avoid and stuff, or who they want to pick up.
Just a real quick note, that was, you get to see where people see sites and everything, and it was. Yeah. I mean, Stamford, Connecticut had, they visited the site about one. Yeah, well, it was at least once a week, maybe more. They just check in to see what's going on in the local shows.
Yeah, and if they're not checking websites, they're checking Facebooks, because a friend of mine told me that when he was at doing an extra spot in the last year or so, Michael Hayes came up to him and mentioned something that he had posted on Facebook about something. I forget what it was, but basically that like because they're traveling, if they're not in the airplane, they're driving 2 or 3 hours to a town. They have nothing else to do. WWE is the exact same as any other independent little show that anybody works on any given weekend or any given weekday. The only difference is they have billions of dollars behind them. It's the exact same, though, because I watched on the monitors with like Spanky or like Natalia or different people watching stuff. They make jokes about stuff the same way we do watching our friends on the show. Like, it's the exact same. They're just making a lot of money while they do it. So they're still, like we are, searching social media while they're driving through towns, nothing else to do. So anyway, I'm sitting there with JR and Lawler and my dad and Kevin are across from me and everything. Brooklyn Brawler brings over Randy Orton, who's like eating a Rice Krispie treat, but it's got Fruit Loops in it. Like, I remember every detail of this because of how embarrassing it was. He's eating his Rice Krispie Fruit Loop treat. Steve walks over with him and he goes, Hey, Randy, this is Eric Wayne. He's a third-generation wrestler like you. Hey, Eric, how you doing? Good, sir. He did your punt kick on the indie scene and broke the guy's face. Oh, thanks. That's a good way to get me over.
Right.
And I'm this is 09. I'm not that I'm in shape or ever really have been a lot, but I was definitely not in shape back then. And Jamie Noble told me that when I asked him what I needed to do. You're a good worker. You just need to, have that athletic appearance. You don't have the build yet. So that gives you an idea. You can go look at old pictures from 10 years ago. So Orton doesn't give a damn who I am. All he knows now is I'm a third-generation wrestler, and I'm unsafe because I've kicked somebody in the face trying to do his spot.
Right.
Which it wasn't quite the punt kick, but regardless. So he tells Randy that to get me over. Randy goes, why'd you do that? Started off great. Like, couldn't have went any better. I should have just kept my mouth shut. But I tried to be funny at the end and ruined it. So he asked me, like, man, it was a really bad mistake. I rushed myself. Like, I thought I had, the right distance for it. And somehow, it just, like, it was just a real bad accident. The timing was off on it. I'm not really sure. That awkward silence, right? No, like, be safe, have a good day, whatever. That awkward silence. I look over and everyone's fucking staring at me like, say something to break this tension. Or it's like that's what I thought in my head. So, I look at Kevin, who at the time, it was right before I moved in with him, his roommates and stuff, if like they got out of line, he'd beat the shit out of them. And we would ask him like, man, Kevin, why'd you beat up so-and-so? Oh, blah, blah, blah. And he'd finish up. Well, really, they had it coming. I look at Kevin, that line pops in my head. Awkward silence. Why'd you kick this guy in the face? Bad accident, blah, blah, blah. Awkward silence. Say something funny, Eric. Say something funny, Eric. He kind of had it coming, too. Randy Orton walks off. I look over. Lawler's face is just like deer in the headlights. My dad's like shaking his head like, you fucking idiot. Kevin is like covering his face, grinning, trying not to laugh because he knows exactly where I get the line from. Right. He knows like, oh, you think that's funny? Because Kevin and I understood each other. Like, I'm real good at putting my foot in my mouth. And now that I'm on this level, I'm still really good at it. So Kevin's just like, oh, you idiot. If I could have sunk through the floor and disappeared, I would have. That's how like insignificant I felt. a week later, Dustin Starr, still writing all his blogs and stuff, who wasn't even, I don't think, in the room, or if he was at a different table, changes the whole story around and writes that Orton is sitting by himself at a table. I walk over, set my stuff down, start eating and talking to him, trying to put myself over to Randy Orton and tell him that I did his punt kick on the indie scene because we're third-generation wrestlers or whatever, and I broke his face, and, like, trying to get myself over, and Orton gets up and walks off after, like, cutting a promo on me. Completely changed what happened. That story got picked up by somebody in the UK as the headline, Randy Orton jobs out indie wrestler in catering. Couldn't get booked anywhere to save my life for like the next 6 months to a year. I basically like worked little bitty shows around here where people didn't care and would book anybody. Finally started traveling to like Texas and Illinois and like West Virginia and like going on the road, like not trying to wrestle around here because like I don't want to wrestle little shows. I just want to go places. Fucking ruined my career for like a good year or more.
I laugh. Like I said, we can laugh about it now, but it wasn't funny. I tried to defend you as much as possible on that.
God,
hey guys,
I wanted to.
I hate to do this, Eric. It's been fun, and I think everyone's going to enjoy it. I want to thank the listeners. I want to thank you for joining us. Guys, we'll be right here, same bad time, same bad channel, on the best little wrestling podcast in the business. Be there. And, hey, love my mama. Thanks, man. Hey, thank you for joining us live from SDS Studios in St. Louis, Missouri. And that was another great episode of Shootin' The Shiznit. A big thank you to Bob McGee at Pro Wrestlers Between the Sheets, PWBTS.com. Locals to Legends, Gene Jackson at www.localstolegends.com. Sean Garmer over at W2Mnet.com. Guys, we're at Comic Book Mark BT on Twitter, at BT Shootin' The Shiznit on Instagram. You can send a PayPal. That's right, a PayPal at Brian_Tramel, Tramel, at yahoo.com. All the archives are on our www.stspod.club page. That's right, Cool Kids Wrestling and MMA Talk Facebook group. You can join that and talk about wrestling. If we don't like you, we'll kick you out. There's also a Shootin' The Shiznit Facebook page where we actually post all the new episodes. Remember, you can listen to this episode and many more on iTunes, Stitcher, Player FM, Pop Paradise, and Spreaker. And finally, a shout out to our podcast bros: Suplex City Limits, Creative Control, Who's Right Podcast, P3 Radio. And guys, remember, keep it at 100. Patreon site is only $1. Help my buddy JoJo out there. Only $1. Join us next week for another great episode of Shootin' The Shiznit.